Hey there, Marissa from MW Astrology, and we're looking at tomorrow evening's full moon in Scorpio, the chart of it anyway. So we have a full moon because the moon at 4 degrees of Scorpio is directly opposite the sun at 4 degrees of Taurus. And so this opposition means that the full light of the sun is shining on the moon, illuminating it. And so the sun, as we know, is our consciousness, it's our awareness, it's our purpose, it's our core essence. And the moon is the unconscious. It's that aspect of ourselves that is kind of below the surface. When we move into the Taurus-Scorpio axis, we were just in the Aries-Libra axis. So in Aries-Libra, we're dealing with self and individuality and confidence and comfort in being yourself, and how that extends into your partnerships and your close relationships. How do the people that we attract in close relationships mirror ourselves? How do we show up in relationships? So that's been the theme for the past month as the sun was moving into Aries, and we had 2 eclipses, and so those themes are going to continue through the summer and into the early fall when we have the next set of eclipses. But now we're in Taurus-Scorpio season, and Taurus-Scorpio is really about security. We're dealing with themes of what do we want to create? What do we want to build for ourselves? What's mine? What's my resources? What are my values? What's my sense of worthiness? That's all Taurus. And then how do I use these resources in relationships with others to establish intimacy? How do I cultivate my resources? What is mine? What am I bringing to the table so that I can share myself with an important other? So when we're dealing with Taurus-Scorpio, we're dealing with what makes us feel comfortable, what makes us feel secure. And there needs to be a balance between my resources, my values, my sense of self and worth, and what is needed as far as showing up and being seen fully, being vulnerable, which is what allows intimacy to develop. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. When we have the emotional moon in this very deeply emotional sign, there is a sense of potential overwhelm for the magnitude of the emotions that we feel. And we all have Scorpio and Taurus and Aries and Libra and all the rest of the signs somewhere in our charts. So we all have these energies. We just have them highlighted or emphasized to different amounts depending on what the placement is for our individual chart. That's why astrology becomes an individual focused practice. In any event, coming back, when we have the full moon in Taurus-Scorpio, those are the questions. It's kind of, how comfortable am I with being vulnerable? Am I willing to lay my cards on the table? Am I willing to be seen? Do I have a sense of self and a secure sense of who I am, that I am willing to stand in the light, to be seen, to trust another? Scorpio energy very often, gets the scaries at the thought of being that open, that exposed, that transparent. And so a lower expression of Scorpio is to try to control circumstances, control situations, to deflect, to hide behind perhaps sarcasm, to not really want to expose everything about them. It's more of a protection because of the fear of what can go wrong. Will I get hurt? Because those feelings are so strong in water signs, and in particularly fixed water. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. Fixed signs don't get over things easily. And so a lot of times, a lot of energy is spent protecting the self. But that also denies you the intimacy that you so deeply crave in your Scorpio moments. Nobody wants to be half in a relationship. But yet, there's this need to balance the vulnerability with the desire for the intimacy. So what are you being shown? Because full moons bring things to light. What are you being shown about what you need to feel secure? What resources do you have that you want to develop, perhaps bring to the table, offer you a sense of worth and worthiness, so that it's not the external approvals that you're actually going after anymore, but that you're going more comfortable and confident with what you're offering and willing to essentially expose yourself, to stand in the light, to be seen. Interestingly, we haven't had one of these in a while, but here's Pluto in Aquarius, and he's making a T-square to the sun and the moon. And we really haven't had a T-square lunation in a while. We have a lot of them, it feels like, but haven't in a while. But we do now. So Pluto is working his way through Aquarius, just entered. So it's going to change, as we've mentioned. Pluto brings transformation, and Pluto brings up the ugly in the characteristics of the sign, which are kind of what propel it into this transformative perspective, as it were. So I've spoken about that, and this is on a macro level. It's transforming how we relate to each other in groups, how we define community, how we achieve future goals, right? How we can express ourselves as part of something bigger than ourselves. But when Pluto is squaring, making a T-square to this particular Sun, Moon, Scorpio, Taurus condition, Pluto is saying here, what are your patterns that are keeping you stuck? Because these are fixed signs. They do not appreciate change. They are not going to be running forward into the new. You're going to see how you sabotage yourself in relationships. You're going to see where you undervalue yourself. This is the time that you're going to notice if you are trying to control situations, or if you have enough faith in your own abilities to show up and to trust and to offer, to stop micromanaging, because you realize that that doesn't give you the security you need or want. Only recognizing and developing your authentic presence is going to offer you that sense of stability. It has to be internal. It can't ever be external. So Pluto is going to bring up those things that you do, those patterns that you have. And as I've often said, the way to work with a T-square, because there's got to be an outlet for these energies. They're going to be bouncing around, and you're going to, Pluto is essentially, are you going to control things, or are you going to empower yourself to know that you can handle anything? And interestingly, Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. So there's a little bit of extra oomph for the influence that he's exerting under this full moon. But the way you work with a T-square is to access the energy of the sign opposite the sign that the planet is in that's doing the squaring. That was a mouthful. But the bottom line is Pluto in Aquarius is the one that's doing the squaring, exerting the influence. The sign opposite that is Leo. And so it's time to access your inner Leo, your warmth, your graciousness, your leadership. Leo understands its power. Leo is guided by a moral code, and it is loyal and faithful to that code. So are you walking your talk? I know that's been a theme that we've all had for a while, but are you aligned with it? Leo is generous and inviting. Leo doesn't need to compete. A fully realized Leo energy does not need to compete because it is so grounded in its own light that it recognizes that it doesn't cost anything to create an environment where everybody gets to shine. It's an inclusive sign, but it also realizes that it has a specific purpose. So how am I going to, in my Leo self, join with others in community, that's the Aquarius aspect, and offer my unique individual purpose, my way of being? What can I contribute to this group in a way that is authentic to myself? And in so doing, I recognize what my value is, what my worth is, what resources I have, and I am ready to build something lasting and sustainable while also allowing myself to be seen in my fullness. So there's a lot going on here. Can you let yourself shine? Are you willing to be seen? Because the world needs you. It's not serving anybody to stay in the shadows. So I wish you a beautiful full moon in Scorpio. Take very good care of yourselves, and happy Passover, peaceful Passover to all of you who celebrate.